Why is it that a tiny percentage of traders in their 20s quietly go on to make millions? Most blow up their accounts and quit before they ever succeed. Well, in this video, I'm going to share 11 simple steps to get rich in your 20s from trading. And in step 3, I'll reveal one of the biggest mistakes I see talented traders making, which absolutely kills their chance of success. So let's get into it. Imagine being a 25-year-old trader looking at a 40-year-old trader's life. You might think, wow, this guy's so talented, he's made so much money, I wish I could have results like him. The 40-year-old looks at the 25-year-old and says, wow, this guy has so many more advantages than I do. He's got more energy, he doesn't have a wife and kids to worry about, and he can get by on less sleep. I wish I was like him. When you're young, you don't realize how many edges you have. The key is not to take them for granted. And that's why lesson 1 is value your time and energy. We need to understand what level of trader you are. So for the next step, I want you to start by grading your trading between 1 and 10. First for mindset and then for your strategy. And then if you traded for less than 5 years, I want you to subtract 2 points from your score. Less than 10, subtract 1 point. You see, almost every trader overrates himself. It's just like 9 out of 10 people claim to be above average drivers. This exercise resets the ego and gives you a truer baseline. So step 2 is review your skills. But keep those scores handy because you're going to need them again for step 4. When you start learning to ride a bike, your parents will keep it as safe as possible. You'll have a helmet, stabilizers, and you'll stay on a nice, flat surface. That's great advice for a beginner learning to ride, but imagine now being 18 and still having on those stabilizers because someone told you years ago that safety comes first. Now, it might be a funny image, but I see guys trading like this all the time, and it's totally understandable, because they hold on to the advice they received when they first started trading. Play it safe, don't risk much, protect the capital. And at the start, that's great advice because you're beginning. And in the beginning, your goal isn't to get rich, it's simply survival. This is where expected value comes in. Let's say you have a setup which wins 50% of the time for 20 ticks on average and loses 50% of the time for minus 5 ticks. The maths is simple. 0.5 times 20 equals 10. 0.5 times minus 5 equals 2.5. So if you add those two numbers together, you get 7.5 ticks in expected value for this trade. Now that's a massive positive trade, but if you're still risking tiny slithers of your account because you're scared to graze your knee, you're never going to be fully rewarded for that edge you've worked so hard to have. The traders who actually get rich in their 20s aren't reckless, but they're not timid either. They scale risk as their skill and accounts grow, and then they back themselves when the maths is simply in their favor. So the lesson is scale intelligently but fearlessly. And real quick, before I move on to the next step, if you're finding these tips helpful and want to take your performance in trading to the next level, I have a mindset coaching program for ambitious traders who want to scale to 7 figures and higher. Click the first link in the description and book a free 30-minute strategy call directly into my diary, and I'll see if I can help. Now, let's get back to the action. Have you ever got so overwhelmed by all your options in trading you feel paralyzed because there's just so much to do? If so, you're not alone. Once you've acknowledged where you are and started thinking about risk, the next thing you need to figure out is what to work on and how. So use those scores from before, and here's the question I want you to ask yourself. What is the one improvement that if I made would move my mindset or strategy forward more than anything else? The lesson here is simple. The secret to progress is leverage. Focus on the fewest things that swing the biggest doors. Imagine trying to learn how to juggle, but instead of starting with 1 or 2 balls, you start with 6. You wouldn't learn faster because you dived in headfirst at the deep end. You drown. One of my clients was exactly like this. He tried to trade every market, every setup, every signal he saw. He thought the more trades he took, the faster he'd learn, but it was chaos. The lesson is simple. Getting to be 9 out of 10 in 2 or 3 setups is a road to wealth. Being 5 out of 10 at 20 setups is a road to ruin. Now, conviction isn't just confidence. It's confidence that's backed by data. Here's an exercise I give a lot of my clients. Pick one setup, commit to 50 trades, and log every single one. Score each trade from 3 things. Did it match my rules? Did I execute with discipline? What was the outcome? By 50 trades, you'll know. You'll know if the setup works, you'll know if you can execute it, and you'll know where the leaks are and what you need to work on. The lesson here is the conviction comes from structured tracking, not from chasing shiny new strategies. Build conviction from practicing and tracking. Imagine running a small library with just 500 books. If someone asked you where a book was, you'd instantly know. Easy. But now imagine you land your dream job at a massive library with 500,000 books. Suddenly, memory just doesn't cut it anymore. You'd send people to the wrong shelf, you'd forget where things are, you get overwhelmed and exhausted. That's exactly what happens in trading. At the start, you think, I know my setups inside out, but as you add more strategies, more markets, more variables, you can't keep all that in your head. The traders who grow rich in their 20s don't try and rely on memory. They build systems. They log everything. Journals, Evernote, Notion, spreadsheets. Frankly, it doesn't matter what you use. It matters that you're building a second brain. So write down everything if you want to scale as a trader and actually get rich young. You need systems that let you learn from years of experience, not just yesterday's memory. The lesson is simply build a second brain. Now, I once had a client who was consistent but never hit really big days. Why? Because he spent his energy chasing smaller wins, and when the monster trades came, he wasn't prepared. Instead of banking 80k, 100k, he'd scrape 10. The lesson is wealth in your 20s doesn't come from every trade being a winner. It comes from being prepared for outliers, prioritize the big opportunities, and fit the smaller ones around them. Now, back when I was a professional poker player, the internet once cut out mid-session. I lost my mind, it was 1 in the morning, and I sprinted in my Jimmy Jams to a friend's flat, hands shaking, furious. That anger ruined not just that night, but my whole week. A friend finally said to me, every poker player deals with this, factor it in. Trading's the same. Platforms crash, power cuts happen, misclicks happen. It's not bad luck, it's simply part of the game, and it's what you signed up for. If you want to stay in the game long enough to get rich, stop letting uncomfortable events wreck your mindset. That's why step 9 is change what you can control and accept what you can't. Now, another challenge I faced during my time as a professional poker player was that some days were just mind-numbing. Slow days, bad cards, hours of waiting for action. I realized if I didn't find a way to keep myself engaged, I'd start playing badly out of pure boredom. So I turned it into a game. I started tracking stats, how many hands I played, what my win rate was, and how well I stuck to my strategy. And I treated it like a video game, always trying to beat my high score. Suddenly, even on the boring days, I was locked in because the game wasn't just cards, it was my performance. In trading, if you can't make consistency fun, you'll never stick with it long enough to win. That's why step 10 is find games within the game. We've all heard the fable of the tortoise and the hare. The hare sprints off but then needs a nap because he burns out. And the slow and steady tortoise is successful because he keeps plodding along. When I see people getting into trading, I see way more hares than tortoises. Most traders chase thrills. More setups, more screens, more action. The ones who get rich young, they're consistent, well, sometimes a little boring. You see, just like the tortoise, successful traders keep turning up and trusting the process day after day. And this momentum over time is what snowballs. And that's why step 11 is track consistency, not excitement, or as I like to call it, be the tortoise. If you really want to become rich in your 20s from trading, or at any age, you also need to treat trading like a performance sport. So watch this video next, where I reveal 3 mindset shifts so powerful they'll transform how you trade and put you ahead of 99% of the competition. I'll see you there.